Hello everybody and welcome to yet another anime video here today. We're going to be doing something semi-unique today, fellas. I say semi because I brought this topic up before for a video idea, but I'm actually going to be putting it into effect this time. And yes, you may have read the title or looked at the thumbnail or whatever. I am going to be rating every single romance anime main character based off of how annoying I think they are. This will include male and female characters, and some characters will be combined. I'll talk about that more in a second. So, this video, just to preface, is entirely based off of personal opinion, so if your opinion differs, you can politely leave me a comment saying I'm stupid. With that in mind, we're just going to jump straight into this. I'm going to go through each of what the tiers are, and then we're going to jump into the characters, because we have quite a few to go through here. Okay, I've seen a lot of romance anime, so yeah. We're going to start with the bottom tier here, which is God's Regret. This is for characters that are so frustrating to watch. And this isn't just annoying, by the way. This is also frustration, stupid decision-making, embarrassing moments. You may have seen one of the tiers. That kind of thing. All of those play a role in whether I determine a main character as annoying or not. So annoying is kind of a broad term here. More so me saying that they're just not entertaining, or at least that they are aggravating to watch. Because some of the characters that are aggravating are still entertaining to watch because the show is good, but the character themselves isn't good. And then there's also vice versa, where a main character can be a pretty decent character, but then the show they're in is just kind of bleh. So with that in mind, bottom tier is just, they're trash. They're utter garbage. I don't even want to see them on screen. Every time they're on screen, it's like seeing Thanos. It gives me a visceral reaction, like, oh, why are you there? There's not going to be a whole lot of characters in this tier. I can only think of one, actually, that's going to be in this tier. There may be more, possibly. Next up, we have End My Suffering. This is for characters that are mostly insufferable. They are absolutely terrible to watch, but they have moments where they are fine. Okay, so there are occasional moments where I'm like, all right, you're doing all right, or hey, you're in the right side here. Or in some cases, it's where I don't necessarily hate the character, but I think that they're extremely annoying. I also have one in mind for this tier. This one's going to be a little more common, I think, though. Next up, we have Secondhand Embarrassment. This is pretty self-explanatory. If a character does things that are pretty embarrassing a lot of the time, I'm going to put them here, because you can have a good character that does stuff that's embarrassing, or they get embarrassed, or things like that. But there are some characters on this list, they just do things, and they don't annoy me necessarily, but some of their actions are just like, they're brain dead. More so, they're an embarrassment than an annoyance. Next up, we have Could Be Worse. This is pretty self-explanatory as well. Next up, we have Walking on Sunshine. This is for main characters that are perfectly fine. They do great. Nothing they do really bothers me all that much, although they may have an embarrassing moment or two, or a misunderstanding that really bothers me. Then the top tier is I'm the Embarrassment, which these are characters that are so peak, so amazing, I'm an embarrassment watching them. Like, I don't even deserve to be in their presence kind of thing. Okay, obviously this is an exaggeration, but these characters, they don't have any sort of frustrating or annoying quality, or at least to me, and they don't get themselves in super embarrassing situations, or at least, when I say don't get themselves in embarrassing situations, it has to embarrass the audience for me to feel it. If they are embarrassed, that's different. So, most of these characters get that all the time, but if it's bothering me, the viewer, then it's an issue. So let's jump straight into this. Starting off with Tsutsui. As you can see on the list here, we have male characters starting, then we have characters that are male and female. So this is for if there's two main characters and they get kind of equal screen time and you can't have one without the other, then I include them as one box. Also, another thing, I have NASA from Tonikawa Over the Moon for You twice on this list. One as the box with him and Tsukasa, and one by himself. Just ignore the one where he's by himself. It was an accident to add him. Anyways, then we have female characters last. So, yeah. Here we got Tsutsui from 3D Kanojo. I'm going to be sticking him probably in the Could Be Worse tier. I made this tier with him in mind, mostly because, you see, Tsutsui is a good character. I like watching him over the course of the show. I think that he has some decent character development, and I think that his interactions with other characters are one of the best parts of the show. That being said, he is obviously very dense. He is not very adept in social situations, and that's the point. That is the point of the story itself. That being said, it does not make it any less annoying when he messes up. However, that is not the main reason that I'm putting him in this tier. It is less of Tsutsui's fault and more so the plot that revolves around him, if it makes sense. So, 3D Kanojo has a bad tendency, a bad habit, you may say, where it blames Tsutsui for things completely beyond his control. Multiple supporting characters will constantly give him crap or say something negative to him as if it's his fault that something happened. And there are a lot of occurrences of this. I've also brought this up on every single tier list video that I've done with these characters, or at least with most of these characters. Obviously, some of these are from shows I've watched recently, so they weren't there before. Tsutsui has been in all of these tier lists, however, so I've said the same thing with him. I'm not going to repeat it a million times, but he gets a lot of crap, and it's kind of frustrating to watch. It's not so embarrassing as it is a little bit annoying, but it's less of his fault. Still, I'm putting him here. Next up, we got Natsuo from Domestic Girlfriend. I'm gonna go with secondhand embarrassment. Okay. Now, say what you will about Domestic Girlfriend. I know I talk plenty of crap, but Natsuo himself is not that bad of a character. He doesn't rub me the wrong way necessarily, but he's also not... I don't know, there's not much to say about him. It's also been a while since I've seen the show, so I don't remember a lot of the stuff that revolves around him. The one thing that sticks in my memory, though, which is why I'm putting him in secondhand embarrassment, is the part where he's in the hotel with Hina. That whole part is just gigantic secondhand embarrassment that afflicts the audience, and it is agonizing. Now, it's worse so for Hina's character, but it's still, I mean, Natsuo's involved, obviously. And that really just, it bothers me. It's like, dude, close the curtains, stupid. What are you doing? You're doing that up within view of people. And he doesn't close the curtains. He's very lackadaisical, and that frustrates me a lot. Also, he has plenty of options around him, right? And yet he still chooses to cougar hunt, which... I mean, say what you will, but that's not exactly my cup of tea. Therefore, it really bothers me. Not kind of. And it bothers a lot of people, too. Because, you know, that was like a teacher and they're related. It's not the best. We're moving on. Next up is Nagi from A Couple of Cuckoos. I'm going to put him also in secondhand embarrassment, but I'm going to put him higher. Because I like Nagi more as a character. I also remember a lot more about him because Couple of Cuckoos has 2 seasons, first of all, and second of all, I just like the show more, period. Nagi is a pretty great character. He isn't super dense. He's kind of just an average main character with a little sprinkle of added self-awareness. But with that in mind, he actually gets himself caught in a lot of bad situations. Or so... thing I want to point out is that little short that I made of him and Erica, where they basically tell everybody at school that not only are they engaged to one another, but that they were swapped at birth, and they basically give them their life story. That whole thing, pure secondhand embarrassment. That was the single dumbest decision I think I've ever seen made in anime, period. And I'm not even kidding you. It was real stupid. Like, I don't like telling people my first name, no less my life story, just telling everybody that. I mean, what made them do that, you might ask? Well, the thing that made them do that are these, I think it was lunch vouchers? Wasn't that what it was? Lunch vouchers. No shot. You just blew the lid on everything, spilled the beans, and you did it for vouchers. And you know the kicker? They're rich. Or at least Erica's parents are rich. Okay, technically they're Nagi's blood-related parents, but they're Erica's adoptive parents, right? Or not adopted. It's complex. Anyways, they're basically rich. So it's not like they need the money, you know? It's not like Futuro, who maybe he's gonna do something really stupid for money. It's obviously also not a lot of money, so it's not like they're being handed, oh, you know, here's 30,000 yen. That sounds like a lot of money. It's actually not that much in Japan. I'm just For me, because I live in the United States, $30,000 is like, whoa, that's a pretty good amount, you know, but for them, that's actually not really that high. Anyways, we're moving on. Next up, we have Masachika. Am I saying that right? He's from Alia, Sometimes Hides Her Feelings in Russian. It's been a while since I've seen this show. I'm going to put him in Walking on Sunshine. I don't recall anything with this character where he bothered me. It's mostly the characters around him that do stupid stuff. He seems perfectly fine. I guess there are the moments where he's with his sister that are kind of embarrassing, like they give you secondhand embarrassment, but I don't think it's him necessarily. You could say it's more Yuki, but also they're the most entertaining part of the show. They're dynamic, so it's also not a bad thing. So that's why I'm putting him up here on Walking on Sunshine. Next up, we have Futaro from Quintessential Quintuplets. I'm gonna put him in Could Be Worse. Now, I want to make something vividly clear. If you've seen any of my other tier list videos, you should know that Futaro is one of my favorite main characters of all time. Everything about him, I constantly sing his praises. So, why do you think I put him in the Could Be Worse tier? Well, because this is based off of how much they annoy you, or are frustrating to watch, or are embarrassing to watch. He does some stuff that triggers some embarrassment, okay? One of the biggest cases, I think, that causes this is the way that he constantly gets tossed around by Nino, okay? That's frustrating for a lot of people. It wasn't as bad for me, but he messes up at some points. And additionally, his decision to choose Yotsuba, well, I agree with it. That really bothered a lot of people. And so I think objectively, it's hard to look past the fact that he does annoy the audience a lot of the time, and he also does some other stuff that annoys the audience. Just, I mean, really, it's a combination of things. He also starts the show off pretty arrogant, which I know is a part of his character development, is him kind of moving past that, and it didn't bother me as much. In fact, I welcomed it because most anime main characters are pretty much like the total opposite. They have low self-esteem, and that's actually, I think, more annoying to watch. But with Futaro, he does a couple of things that aren't exactly the best in terms of decision making, etc. There are some situations that he could have handled better where, you know, he walks in on somebody or something like that. He gets thrown around a lot of the time. Other than that, he's alright. Next up, we have the main character from The Dangers in My Heart. I'm going to put him on Walking on Sunshine, and I'm just going to leave it at that. I'm not really going to talk too much about him. Next up, we have Rentaro from 100 Girlfriends. He's going in I'm the Embarrassment. Easy. He does not annoy me. He does not frustrate me. He doesn't really do embarrassing things. This man is peak. He is one of my favorite main characters in anime. Simply put. Moving on. Next up, we have the main character, or at least you could argue one of the main characters of Science Fell in Love, but I tried to prove it. I'll go on Could Be Worse. He's got some corny moments. He does some good stuff. Mostly because the majority of the characters in that show do weird or goofy stuff, so it's kind of excusable. I don't know, it doesn't bother me. Okay, moving on, we have Ryuji from Toradora. Okay, I'm going to put this in the bottom of secondhand embarrassment. Let me explain why. Ryuji is a very good character. I would say he's actually one of, objectively, the best written characters on this list. One of, not the single most. However, and this is especially present at the beginning of the show, Ryuji is very much a punching bag. He's a doormat. He gets beat up by Taiga constantly, never does anything in response to it. Which, I understand you're not supposed to, you know, punch somebody in the face just because they punched you in the face. However, you kind of, that is usually the normal response after somebody has beat the crap out of you repeatedly, is eventually you'd expect like a slap back or something like that. I know he wouldn't win in a fight. It's kind of annoying, at least in that sense. Also, in episode 1, the fact that Taiga breaks into his house and his response to that, which, by the way, he lives with his mother, so it's not like he's living alone and he's just going to make a decision for himself. He lives with his mother and a pet, so when he sees that somebody has broken into his home, instead of calling the police or anything like that, he instead pretty much just bends over and prays to not die. That's basically what happens. And, I mean, that's That's pretty embarrassing to watch, honestly. At the end of the show, however, Ryuji, he gets a lot better, and Ryuji as a character overall is, I mean, he is a good character. He has a lot of development, and he isn't annoying as a whole, but he's got his moments, and he has a lot of those moments, which is why I'm putting him here in secondhand embarrassment. Okay, moving on to Hikigaya from Origairu. This is going to be probably the most unpopular opinion on this list. I'm putting him in God's regret. Look, Hikigaya, he's something else, man. Let me tell you, I have never had a main character where I've looked at him and said, wow, you are a moron more than this man. What is there to say about him that I haven't already talked that smack about? The guy, he doesn't know how to solve problems, okay? All he knows is how to create problems. He generates his own issues. Not only does every time a problem arises, he goes and basically solves it in the worst way possible and in the most embarrassing way possible, but also he creates his own problems constantly with this need to be genuine crap. It's everywhere. It's all over Origairu. The constant reminder that, oh, maybe people aren't being genuine. No, there's no such thing as a genuine relationship. I can't be doing this. And then even at the end, even by the end of the show, after 3 seasons, his confession to Yuka Noshida is basically, I kind of want to tolerate you. Can I bring you into my life just to ruin things a bit? The way he words it, watching him, he is not a very entertaining character to watch. Just everything about him rubs me the wrong way. And I understand that he's relatable for a lot of people, but he's relatable in a very edgy kind of way. The whole world is cursed and everybody sucks kind of way. Which, yeah, he's right to an extent, but at the same time, you can't have as many friends and as much going on as he does. You know, he's got a sister back home and everything, and his response to everything is just, hey, I'm just gonna close it out. And then he creates his own problems. He's in this delusional state that everything is wrong, and he's got to solve everything with self-sacrifice. He's got a major martyr complex, and that's not too great to watch. He has way too many embarrassing moments to count, and he is not a fun character to watch. He's actually my 3rd least favorite anime character. He's down on the list. Moving on, we've got Rito Yuki from To Love Ru. Do I even need to say more about this character? Because I feel like I've talked enough smack on this channel about him before. We'll keep it brief. He's got the world pining for him, and he locks up like a toddler and basically does nothing. He doesn't reject anybody. He also doesn't accept their feelings. He instead picks a middle ground option where he basically just goes selectively mute and doesn't do anything. Basically, my analogy for Rito is he's a peacock that waves his feathers around to get all the females' attention, and then after he gets their attention, he then sits down and does nothing. I'm not going to go into anything else with this character. I've talked enough smack about him on the channel. I have like 3 whole videos of me criticizing him, basically. Or they might as well be 3 whole videos. I'm putting him here. Next up, we have Takeo Goda from Ore Monogatari. He's also goated. I don't need to say much about this character. Every time he's dense, it matches his character. It isn't anything that really bothers you. It makes sense why he doesn't understand what's going on. But he constantly works to make everything great. He is extremely hardworking. He cares about everyone genuinely. He is Captain Japan. He is the Captain America of anime. He's such a good-hearted person in such a pure way. He is fun. He's a little on the spectrum, but it doesn't bother me. Moving on. We have Sakata from Rascal Does Not Dream. I'm going to be putting him in Walking on Sunshine. Yeah, I would say he doesn't really have any embarrassing moments necessarily. He has some moments that are kind of a little frustrating to watch, but only because it takes him so long to figure some stuff out. That's not really his fault. Obviously, normal people don't experience supernatural phenomenon like he does. You know what? No, I'm putting Sakata in the top tier. Thinking about it more, he doesn't really have any moments that bother me. Next up, we have the main character of Your Lie in April. I'm gonna be putting him in End My Suffering because, look, I know he has PTSD, but as everybody in high anime in the chat is saying, you gotta get over that. Okay, obviously, normal people can't get over PTSD with the snap of their fingers. That is clear. However, I do not want to watch you consistently, I think it was 3 whole times, have a PTSD panic attack in the middle of playing the piano in front of a gigantic crowd of people. It screams secondhand embarrassment. And then when he's alone with people, he just can't admit his feelings to anybody. And then by the end of the story, after one of the other main characters dies, which was kind of his love interest, he goes along with his best friend, and it's sort of implied that they're closer, but also it's not confirmed. So then that bothers me a little bit more thinking about that. Okay, I dwelled for like a whole week on just that revelation alone. I'm like, all right, so one of the main characters is dead. Who's he gonna go with now? Just gonna go with his best friend? Because it seems more like settling than just choosing somebody because you actually love them. I don't know. It bothered me a lot. The main moments, though, it's the piano PTSD events that occur that just rub me the wrong way. And it rubs a lot of people the wrong way. It's bad to watch. It really is. Now, when he recovers from it, it's a great moment. But all of the build-up prior to that, it's hard to ignore, especially given the length that they dragged it out. If it happened 1 time, I think it would have been enough. If it happened 2 times, I would have got it. It happening 3 times or 4 times, we don't need all that, okay? Alright, moving on, we have Masamune, I think his name is, from Eromanga Sensei. This one I've watched recently. I would put him in... probably could be worse, mostly because of the frustration. He doesn't have any embarrassing moments that I can think of, but the frustration of him picking Sagiri, despite the fact that Elf is right there, just doing everything possible to make the audience love her as a character, and then this clown chooses Sagiri anyways, which, by the way, is his stepsister. However, you can take it from the direction of, like that's fate or however you want to excuse it. You can roll with that argument. Other than that, though, he doesn't have much that bothers me with the character, so I think he's passable. I also like him as an individual, so he doesn't really bother me. I don't think he's an annoying person necessarily. He's just got his moments. And also his big decision bothers me a lot, but I think it's acceptable, at least in this context. Moving on to the main character of Arimo. If you know what Arimo's title expanded is, then you know what main character this is. This might shock some people, but I'm actually going to probably put him in the top of secondhand embarrassment. Or should I put him below Nagi? I'm going to put him below Nagi. Okay, so Kyosuke is actually not that bad of a character. I'm sorry to say. Most people are going to rip my eyes out for that, alright, out of my skull, but he's a pretty good character. I actually enjoy watching him. However, he makes some questionable decisions. Everybody knows the decision at the end of this show, okay, so I don't need to repeat that. But the biggest thing with him is he is way too submissive to abuse. Okay, he is, and this is the same thing I was saying with Ryuji, except I would argue that it's actually worse, because in the case of Taiga, she actually gets better over the course of Toradora and starts to attack people less. However, in this case with his sister, she does not stop attacking. Ever. Now, I don't know, I haven't finished Season 2, so I don't know, maybe she does get a lot better. However, she is very hostile. He has been slapped, I think, maybe 25 times from the start of the show to the end of Season 1. I'm not kidding you. He is slapped, kicked, he's been kicked in the balls, by the way, which, like, that alone, not retaliating after that, you failed. You failed your mission. But after all the slaps, punches, things like that, verbal abuse, I mean, his dad punched him, things like that, he doesn't do anything. He doesn't talk back to people. He doesn't retaliate. He doesn't come up with anything. He just kind of takes it. Not only does he take it, but then he does things to support his sister, who's very ungrateful in response. Now, I understand that he cares about his sibling very much, but at a certain point, you have to stop taking the abuse and just say, fine, you want to deal with your problems on your own, you go deal with them. But I'm not going to go help you if you're going to beat me when I get home. He's a doormat, okay? He's a welcome mat. So, with that in mind, I'm putting him here just because I like him as a character. He doesn't annoy me as much alone, but just his decision making is really frustrating. I just realized these two female characters are before the bridge characters, but it's fine. I'll just put them on the list anyways. Next up, we have the main character of Kimi ni Todoroki, being Sawako. I'm gonna put her in the top of End My Suffering. The reason I'm putting her at the top and not near the bottom is because I think Sawako as a character is a great character. She has good development, and she also kind of stands up for herself by the end of this anime. However, she is very difficult to watch at certain points, and her attraction to Shota, he bothers me. He bothers me a lot. And that more so reflects on his character, but it also reflects on her, just because she's willing to kind of take his crap, and she shouldn't. She really should not be taking his garbage. Not to mention, by the end of this show, she kind of decides to go along with Shota anyways, despite the fact that Shota shows a million red flags for being a bad partner in a relationship. It's not all that. Also, the whole failed confession scene, I've talked about this before, that whole thing was a fiasco. Okay, that was probably the most embarrassing moment in all of anime history that I've seen, at least. It was so embarrassing, I had to stop watching the show for a whole day just to get my mind right after it. It was stunning. I can't explain it beyond the fact that it was just pure shock. I didn't even know humans could be that bad in an interaction, but here we are. Moving on, we have the main character, or at least one of the main characters of My Happy Marriage. She's going in the top tier. I don't need to say much about her character. Yeah, she takes a whole lot of crap from people at the beginning for the first 2 or 3 episodes, but it also makes sense because she's in an abusive household and they have powers and she doesn't. Or at least she hadn't discovered her powers by that point. I mean, what are you going to do? Blame her, right? She's a great character. Not much else needs to be said. Okay, we're moving on to some of the couple characters, just because they can't really be separated appropriately. They're also basically in the same tier anyways, so that's why. We have Nasa and Tsukasa from Tonikawa Over the Moon for You. I'm putting them here at the top tier. These two do not bother me. They're peak main characters. They're fun and nice to watch. That's pretty much it. Next up, we have Kaguya and Shirogane from good old Kaguya-sama Love is War. They are also going in the top tier. They have their embarrassing moments, but these are by no means frustrating characters to watch, okay? You might get a little annoyed with their tsundere dynamic, but it doesn't bother me. Moving on, we have Takagi and Nishikata from Teasing Master Takagi. Ladies and gentlemen, I have talked about this anime so much on this channel, it might actually be the most talked about thing on my channel besides To Love Ru. I'm putting it in the bottom tier. You know my thoughts. You should know by now. If you don't know my thoughts, I have a whole entire video explaining why I dislike Nishikata. Oh boy, is he an annoying character to watch. He never learns from his mistakes. He is constantly getting screwed over. And Takagi is a reality bender. She warps reality. She can't do the stuff that she does in that show in any, not even unrealistic setting. She's doing this like it's another dimension. Next up, we have the couple from Harimia, the two main characters. I'm putting these in Walking on Sunshine, or Could Be, should I put them in Could Be Worse? I'll put them in Walking on Sunshine. The only reason I considered putting them in a tier lower is because of the moments where Hori wants him to basically, like, you know, slap her or insult her, that kind of thing, because that turns her on. Except it's very embarrassing for the audience because every onlooker sees it and they're like, whoa, he's abusing his girlfriend. So if it wasn't for that, they'd be in the top tier, but because of that, I'm putting them there. It's the most generous I can be with those moments. Next up, we got Momo Ayase and Okarun from Dandadan. These two are going in the top tier. I'm not going to hear any complaints about it. It's just that simple. Moving on, we have Mori Morioka from Recovery of an MMO Junkie. She is going in Could Be Worse. She's bad at interacting with people. What do you expect? She's 30 years old, doesn't go outside, has no job, that kind of thing. I'm actually going to put her higher up in this tier just because, I don't know, she doesn't act... You know what? I'm going to put her in Walking on Sunshine. She doesn't bother me. Okay, moving on, we have Chihaya from Chihaya Furu. We're going in End My Suffering. There is a single reason. Crying. Holy Jesus. I have never seen a character besides SpongeBob that has cried more than Chihaya. In fact, I actually compare her to SpongeBob in a lot of ways. I think she is the SpongeBob of anime. She cries all the time. That's not the only reason I compare the two of them, by the way, but that is the reason she's in this position. She is constantly crying throughout the entire show. It is fine the first handful of times. At a certain point, though, you're just like, dude, you would genuinely think she has the worst form of depression with how much she cries. And yet, she isn't depressed at all. Also, she's kind of as dumb as a brick. That's the other half of the reason she's down this low on the list. She is very stupid, which I like Chihaya as a character individually, but intellectually, yeah, she's pretty freaking dumb. Just in general. As for the crying, you've really got to stop that. I know you take everything with Karna very seriously, but it's not that deep, coach. Please, stop crying. You cry every episode. At least twice. It gets really bad. Okay, moving on. We have Tomo Aizawa from Tomo-chan as a Girl. We are putting you up in I'm the Embarrassment. He's got some moments where it's a tiny smidge bit embarrassing, but they're intentional, and also Tomo-chan as a Girl, no moment in that entire show bothered me. The whole thing was fun all the way through, so she's going in top tier. Okay, last character we have, because the last one is just a repeat of NASA, that doesn't count. We have Akane from My Love Story with Yamada at level 999. I'm going to put her in Could Be Worse. She has some drunken meltdowns, and some moments where she's sort of awkward. In my review of the show, I commented that she's very much like Chihaya, besides the fact that she doesn't cry all the time. She does cry some, but, you know, it's in reasonable settings, like her boyfriend breaking up with her, that kind of thing. I think she's a cool character. That's pretty much it. So take a good long look, people. This is what we're looking at. The most annoying main characters are at the bottom, and the least annoying main characters are at the top. If you disagree with me, please take it easy, okay? I'm sensitive. If you guys enjoyed, please leave a like, a comment, and I will see you all in the next video. Have a fantastic day and a fantastic life. Goodbye, everyone.